The first item on the agenda is a report from the Historic Commissioners folks. I'll turn it over to you first. I know Ms. Valley is here.
Yes, sir. And I'll look toward the precursor, thank Mr. John Valley for being here, for being diligently working with our historic commission consistently. So I'll Toby, you can do the introductions.
Thank you, folks, and again, I believe all of you have a document that the Anniston Historic Preservation Commission worked on with Mr. David Snyder, and we have our distinguished chairman for the Anniston Historic Preservation Commission, John Valley, in here. So I'm going to give you a few points and a few highlights of this plan and its and how it's going to function within the city.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for letting me come tonight today. This is an update of the Anniston Historic Resource document, which was originally published in 2007. And badly needed to be updated because there were many areas of the city left out. So David Snyder updated it. It now has many more pages, many more districts designated, buildings that may or may not be in danger, and it really includes additional mapping and successes for historic preservation in the city, as well as some of the losses we've had. As many of you already know, the losses we've had over a few years. We have the National Register of Historic Places. We have 47 listings, 39 individual, and 9 historic districts that collectively include 675 resources. The Downtown Historic District has 202 resources. Mr. Snyder identified several areas of potential historic districts and resources. He identified 10 potential individual resources and 16 possible eligible districts. We also have 16 historic properties on the Alabama Register of Landmarks and Heritage. What I'm asking for you to do is to approve this document for use by the Historic Preservation Commission and the city staff. I know Brian would definitely like to have this document approved by the council. We will help her in her work. Jason will help you also.
CDBG also, this is part of their report for broken house. CDBG, sorry, yeah.
It wasn't me, it was someone that looked like me. How are you, John?
So this is the old one and this is the new one, right?
Yes, that's the old one. This is the new one.
Well, I haven't read everything word for word, but it appears to me that a real good job on this.
Yeah, it's an excellent job. It provides us with a lot more detail than we had previously.
So the request is essentially to adopt the report, the report.
And we, as you are well aware, we are a certified local government with the Alabama Historical Commission, and therefore the establishment of the Historic Preservation Commission, that we're supposed to create this type of inventory of historic resources, cultural resources.
Yeah, I think it's very good and very thorough.
Yes, I'm saying for because I ain't got nothing to say about this. I'm over to the report.
Okay.
Very interesting. I got a question for the council out of that. Well, since Councilwoman Vice Mayor says me, that's been my whole thing. I asked this question and I started asking about the what is it called, historical coffee house?
History makers.
History makers,
Yeah.
right?
History.
But if you start looking at some of those pictures in that book, I mean, and I know a lot of people not going to go read this and that, but just being acknowledged, if we could I mean, that seemed like something we could do to just, I mean, as a souvenir book to sell for $2-3. I mean, 'cause I would love to have a book of the way every building on that street, this on Old Street was in the past, versus where it looks now and all the changes. I mean, because some of the buildings still look the same, but some of the transformations that we made, I mean, it's just tremendous to me. I mean, it just, a lot of people won't read books, but they'll look at pictures and look at the picture like, oh wow, that's nice. And I think here in Anniston, because of the transformation we've had since, I'd say since 1972, as far as I go back. I mean, I think it's just been amazing to see some of the things that we, some of the attractions we've had as far as the buildings. Some of those buildings back in the day were like, man, wow, we had that back in, a little old Anniston, That's just something to talk about. I've often said that at City Hall, we have all these pictures around this old building, this old that, you know what I'm saying? I think it's just neat.
Celebrate it more.
Yeah.
Well, there's two good books out there, one's Annistown and the other's Annistown Revisited, that somebody put together it's a good historical reference guide that gives you some information, gives you a good resource, and then a lot of that stuff, if you see a building in there that you're interested in, I do this all the time, you can go to the Alabama room, second floor of the library, and they can pull up whatever address you've got there, any information they've got, they can provide you, and you can make copies of it, and anytime I'm working on building downtown or renovating anything downtown, that's where I start. Is by going by there, you can get some great historical reference data there from multiple times in history, because they just catalog it all to the address. So sometimes you can find something that was built in 1900, and you can see it in 1920 and 1940 and 1960, and you kind of get good information about how the building has been used over the years, as well as any changes that were made from the original to the current. So there's some good resources out there. This community has some excellent ones already. This book right here really kind of targets buildings that still maintain the historic viability and are in need of attention in a lot of cases. So, this one is a good resource guide for that kind of component. So they all complement each other very well.
So what makes something a historic resource? Because I'm looking at some of these pictures, and a lot of these are family-owned homes, and like some of them was innocent. What makes these homes different than the other surrounding homes?
Because of the age, mostly, it can be designated an historic property if it's 50 years old or older. An individual does not have to do it, but they can. They can designate it, ask to be put on the National Register of Historic Places, and that's a very detailed process to go through. It's an honorary title. You can still do anything you want with the property. Then the local designation is from our Preservation Commission. And we designate a property as historic. Then in order to do anything to the outside of that building, they should come to us and present what they want to do. And for example, the Anniston Kitchen is locally designated, we locally designated that. And so if they want to do anything outside of that, they will come to us. And any property in any of the 4 historic districts.
So which hence helps our code enforcement team.
Yeah.
And another thing, a few years ago, it was more than 9 years ago, the Guard Apartments, I worked to get them on the state historic register. And you have 3 ways that can qualify. One, the way I went was with the legacy of John Bailey Guard, who built them. And anyway, I would have never thought that they would be historically significant, because honestly, I don't think they're pretty at all. But they're following the Frank Lloyd Wright movement of the earth, in their design, and so they are significant, but I didn't, I learned a lot doing that process. But, not necessarily pretty buildings, but there may be other ways that they qualify.
And not just every old building qualifies. There normally has to be something,
Like an
Attached to
inhabitant,
it.
something happened.
an event or an individual either lived in it or owned it, something of historical significance may have occurred there at some point. There are a lot of variables that create that. Every old building's not historic, so, things like Buckner Circle out there where I live, they wouldn't deem one of those individual homes as something that would qualify necessarily for the National Register of Historic Places, but the community as a whole, the 20 homes around the central gazebo space and all of that, that's what gives it its historic designation. That and its military history are what give it that. But the individual house in itself, there's nothing historically significant or exceptional about any of those houses individually. But as a group, they carry pretty strong and tell a very good historical story. So it's just kind of it's an odd thing. And there are multiple designations. There's National Register, you can be on the National Register of Historic Places, and you can be state registered historic, and then you can be locally. The closer the designation is to home, the more teeth it has in control. Is that a fair statement? So when you get a local designation on it, we've got some leverage to keep somebody from just destroying something that we have locally defined as important to our culture and our space. So there's some real value to it.
We had a meeting years ago for the Sunset neighborhood, and the group on the street all voted, they wanted to be on the historic register, but it never happened, I don't know why. But I think there was some reservation somewhat with some people, because you had to get permission to paint your house, get the color approved, and all that kind of thing. I think some people really don't like government, they feel like it's government overreach. So that might be why it never happened, but.
The same thing happened with Glenwood Terrace.
Oh, really?
They were designated, and then they decided they didn't want to put it back up.
Yes, sir. If I request that the council allow this to be put on this next agenda for approval, let it get along, impact staff an opportunity to review it well as well.
And then that just maintains our designation, essentially, okay, yes, sir. Everybody go to that for 16.
John, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, folks, we got the towing ordinance moving next.
Yes, I think Lieutenant Calvaro should be commended because we found out that we had a few things that the citizens was not good, we put in order. So we went back and did some research, talked with other people and lawyers within the area, and I think we got something in. If you look in your package, talk about the change that he needs to be made. I've already reviewed the approved draft, which will be coming before the council next meeting. But I think he's done an excellent job to ensure that we got everything in there, everybody's gonna be satisfied. It's taking down the amount that we had from $500,000 up to $200,000. He's also, as it doesn't talk about all records, but Lieutenant Cameron, I want to respond to the board. I think he's done an excellent job getting this final piece to us, and I think it's something that we'll be satisfied with. So, question. Is there a piece in there that says, in order to do this, they have to get a body shop? Say again? Is there a piece in, I haven't taken a look at it. But when you put it there, that they have to get a body shop? Yes, sir.
That was done before, that was in the first ordinance that y'all passed. It was the major change we made there was it was a $500,000 minimum that they claimed on that. That was actually gonna put at least one of our body shops out of business. They would not be able to continue. So we didn't want to do that, obviously. So that was one of the big changes, while we backed it from 500 down to 250. But they have to be a legitimate body shop, and that's part of Caballero's, duties is inspecting them to make sure they just don't have a can of paint, you know, and some air guns and say they're a body shop, so.
But things also in there, like, they gotta be open business hours 5 days a week. So in other words, like, you can't get your car during that time, so it's a lot of things that have been put into that actually is gonna help us without listening to the complaints of the citizens. Some of the things that they've been running into, thinking they've been, you know, charged excessively, so a lot of them, they can only charge a certain price, which is put in there, what can be done, what can be charged. So I think it's just an extra push to help our citizens. We heard the voice of the citizens and the complaints, and I think they addressed those well.
I appreciate y'all doing that, and listening to everybody, because I know there were some issues raised, I appreciate y'all working on that, and addressing those.
So we'll bring that in, bring before council at the next meeting, the first reading.
Any additional comments or questions asked in some of the okay, Ms. Brooks, we got the paving, plan. No, next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. Public Works Director, David Arnett and I had a great meeting today with the, Commissioner Shears and Commissioner Wilson, and as well as their engineers. And we told them the direction we're trying to head in this and trying to have some type of, process. And they were very, very agreeable on that. And so we talked about 2 projects that from Ward 4, Councilman Drive that Mr. Millie has been talking about, and they've agreed, Commissioner Shears agreed to assist in that, as well as Councilmember Smith had some areas as well, and they've agreed to help with that. And that's the way we're going, and they're going to start meeting quarterly so we can talk about how we can help each other, because keep in mind, the county has a bigger area than we do, but they have committed to be on the team, work as a team. Let the experts take care of it, and those guys will meet quarterly, our public works as well as their engineers, and to see what we can do to make this move along quicker. And as what we talked about with Councilmember Roberts last week, we've already found the funding to do that as well from CDBG, and we can take care of it. But what we're trying to do is, and you see what we got allocated in this, we're not trying to spend all the money at one time, but with their help, I think we're gonna be able to actually say what area we can do some paving in, with the help of the county, and just use our resources as wisely as we possibly can. So if the council is agreeable, we'll start the conversation about Congress, as well as once she meets with Commissioner Wilson, what Councilman Smith wants as well. So if y'all agree with that, we can start those paving projects, get those started.
Everybody be moving that forward, and I certainly appreciate the partnership with the county, and it's vitally important with respect to paving. Anything else on item 4 then? I mean, item 3, okay, item 4 actually will appear on the consent agenda tonight, and expression services agreement with Studio A Design LLC.
If you all remember, we talked about using some of the money to actually do that 11th and Noble parking lot, to actually make it something that we can actually use to help with the downtown development as well as economic development at that area. So we just want to actually be allowed to use consultants so we can get a number, a financial number that we can bring back to the council, what we're talking about using. So that's the purpose, because time sensitive, we can get that moving. That's the real with the council.
And again, that's what we sent agenda tonight, everybody knows that.
Yes.
All right, if no other discussion, what's this, item 4, item 5 is a bid for remodeling, fire station number 6, the airport.
Keep in mind, this is in the general fund, we have the funds in there, we put the general fund, but what we're trying to do with the airport is we're talking about moving forward with the airport. This is actually going to bring the airport, the fire station up to the standards that the chief wants. But keep in mind, we were allocated a grant to actually fund the staffing for this for the next 3 years. So I think it's one of those things, and going inconsistency with our what we want with the airport. I think it's one of those things that needs to happen.
Absolutely, so with training and other.
Yes, sir. The funding is there, so chief is working on getting the bid out, so we're ready to move.
Any issues, questions there? All right, 6 is on the agenda tonight. tonight, it's the partners lounge, I know that there have been some issues with that earlier, I think all those have been resolved, I appreciate the finance department working with them, any issues there?
The police fire, give you thumbs up, police, finance, give you thumbs up, we're ready to go.
Ready to go, yeah, okay. All right, then, Mr. Folks, if you, I don't know if you've got any updates, but, we're talking about the meeting on the seventh.
Yes, sir, I want to bring before the council, and this has happened before, but keep in mind that in order for us not to clash with other cities, we try to put the, parade on the date that everybody go to Oxford, everybody go to Jasper, and so forth, so we had to, in order for us to do that, we had to put our, Christmas parade on the seventh, which is our first meeting in December. So what I'm asking the council, either we can, because if we push it back to the next week, that means we have back-to-back meetings. We're not gonna have a whole lot of agenda, because at Christmas time, everything slows down a little bit, so if, I would recommend the council, if there's choice, we can cancel that meeting and then have our first meeting in December will be actually on that third Monday.
I'm good with that, if everybody else is, I mean, I don't know if there's anything on that pressing on the agenda for the seventh anyway, we couldn't deal with assessment meetings, so.
The only thing that we may have to deal with is, but that's gonna have to, actually, if we're gonna have consent to move forward with our fireworks, if we want to do something with the fireworks, ordinance, and I think we've actually looked at it where we can we got some people that actually want to come and do some things, that was conversations now, but I think that we can get this to you and let you all review it, so we can move forward, so we can stop really making some taxes off these fireworks and some other things, and actually address some of the things that's unenforceable by our police and fire department. So that's one of the only things that we'll have to let you all look at. We'll give enough time to review that, and if that's good, that's one thing that's really pressing. That it's time sensitive, because right now we have people that's really wanting to do some things.
Okay. Well, y'all good with that, then just do it the 21st. We would need to add to the consent agenda tonight if we're gonna cancel this meeting. I think we need to do that tonight.
Yes, sir.
Because we'll have felt that. Is everybody?
Why wouldn't we just move our December meeting to the 14th? That way it doesn't push right up on Christmas on the 21st.
Is that?
And it just kind of picks a middle ground for.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's just make sure it's not there. No date, okay. I'm good with that.
That's why I work on smart council.
Y'all good with that? So we'll put that on the consent agenda, cancel the meeting on the 7th.
And the 21st, and reschedule it.
Have a meeting on the 14th. All right, anything else?
No, sir, that's it.
Yeah, I know y'all got time to talk about it, but I will not stop talking about our children's success. I cannot, I will not, it just won't happen. Mr. Mayor, Council, Mr. Foles, what do we need to do to get it better? We send our children out here all the time to go play, and when they call their name out of state champions, they say, nothing out loud. But not one time do we have anything to send them off to say, go Falcons. Do y'all realize Donald girls just won the state championship? But my understanding this is what, 12 out of the last 24 years or something like that. I mean, they got 12 championships, 11 hours.
Two in the last 3 years.
I mean, Jesus, I mean, we never say, and I said this before I became on the council because it was brought to my attention on the day Sacred Heart Boys played their last title, and Anniston girls played on the same day. We sent 2 teams to Birmingham, we didn't have one banner, but there was no businesses, no school, nobody around saying, congratulations, good luck, or nothing. We ain't got 2 schools, 2 public schools that have athletics right now. There are no schools. Can we get balance for those?
I agree with you, however, I think that should be in coordination with the school board. I think that the city extends a lot of helping hands when it comes to the support of our students, as we should, most definitely. Since we've been in office, I can't speak on what happened prior to us being in office, but I do know when the boys won the state championship, you know, we created banners for that and for the girls as well, even for the year before when we weren't in office. But what I would like to see in moving forward with that is coordination with the school board, is making sure that the students are having what they need when they are going to games, not just when they're winning.
Well, not to cut you off or we, all your individuals are, but I'm not talking about things that the students need. What I'm talking about is a sense of pride from the council or from our government saying, hey, we're sending our kids off to go play with our name attached to it. Good luck. We're behind you. That's all. I mean, just, I'm gonna say good luck, go Falcons, go,
Whoever.
Yeah.
right.
They, right.
I mean, that's all. I mean, and now, with that being said, we brought it up, now we owe. I mean, just being realistically, I feel we owe the whole St. Paul athletic department some kind of part. And I say that because I mean, let's be honest, they've represented every thought on the sport. That's just me, I mean, but I'm not one who's ever going to, I mean, I'm the biggest Bulldog fan of me, biggest Anniston fan of me, but I'm the biggest fan of children who are on Seattle. These children are going out working hard, and our children are doing the work. Listen. But I'm just saying, banners are the least we can do. I mean, just
Community pride.
yeah, the statement meeting on the way out, or when we send them off or somewhere where they can see that they ride the bus to Birmingham or wherever they're going to play that championship. That's all.
Yes, sir, we can get better on that, that's not a problem. What we've done in the past is, well, Don one time, we made them grand marshals for our Christmas parade, which I think we can do this year, because we have 2 state champions, and we could make the grand marshals our boys basketball team, as well as like down with girls, make the grand marshals. We've done that before.
I think that's a great idea.
We've done that before, so if we wanna do that, I got Carla right here, so Carla, can you call her? If she feels like to make it out, she can.
I like the idea of a simple, you know, feather flag or something that's got each of the schools represented anytime, that we just keep in store, that anytime any of these schools is playing for a championship, that we got a couple of these, that their bus drives by as they leave Anniston.
We're
It
behind
says,
you, we're for
good
you.
luck, whatever we want to put on it. I mean, that's a pretty inexpensive, simple way to show that we are behind you. We're working today, but we're with you in spirit, and we're doing what we can do. I mean, you know, I think that it's important for them to see that, and I think it helps fire them up. You know, I mean, that's good. So, I wouldn't limit it to athletics, though. We have some groups that go and play in scholars bowls and things like that too. I mean,
That's a good
they're vying for those kind of things too. You still put that out there. The robotics stuff and some of the things that are going on there. I mean, there's no reason not to acknowledge all of these things. Every opportunity, I agree, every opportunity we have to acknowledge the good works of our children, we should.
Good point, we'll make sure that.
All right, thanks. All right, we'll send adjourned till 5:30.
Yeah,